Do you feel like your life is overwhelming right now? Maybe you have a lot going on, your schedule is full, you are trying to balance a lot of things, you wear a lot of hats. As women, we find ourselves in those situations. But today I want to talk to you about one of the main causes that causes the overwhelm in our lives. And it is a lot to do with the things that are going on in your head more than even just your schedule. So I'm not saying your schedule is not busy. Mine is too, but a lot of times we feel this sense of just intense overwhelm because of what's happening in our heads. So my name is Janet. Welcome to the Second Act Collective. And so this is kind of the second episode of the series that I started on how to rebuild our lives and doing it in the right order. And this will be the first step, how to get rid of the mental order overloads that we have. And I believe, why did I say this was the first step? Because if we don't fix that, what's going on in our heads, it's hard to fix anything else that is, visible that we see. So we are starting with the mental overload. And what exactly is that? What does it look like when we say you have mental overloads? Because, we can throw away these phrases and you see this online. And a lot of times we're like, what exactly is it? So these are the things that you are thinking about a lot. One of the things is that you're thinking about something a lot. And I think of mental overload in this way that, like how you have on your laptop, you can have so many tabs that are open. And sometimes, depending on the computer that you have, but sometimes you can have so many tabs that it slows down the computer. The processor is just struggling to keep up with the many tags you have. And so that's kind of how mental overload is. It's like you have a lot of open loops in your head, and your brain is moving from one thing to the other, trying to figure it out, trying to fix it, because the human brain likes to fix things. So anything with something an open loop is trying to close that loop, close that loop. So if you have all these tabs in your head that are just open, that are open-ended things that have not been resolved, your mind is going to work extra hard to try to resolve that for you. Therefore, the overwhelm comes. It comes from that. So I just want to give you examples, right, of these open tabs that we can have in our brain. So you might have a list of things that you need to do, a list of things that you need to do for your kids, a list of things for like school activities, bills that need to be paid. If you have a business, the things about your business, maybe getting more clients, maybe doing more marketing, all those things. So you have all these different categories in your life that have a lot of open things that are just waiting for you to address. And you start to forget things because there's just a lot. And then there's, decisions that have to be made about a lot of things, about a lot of people. So sometimes, we don't realize we are carrying this, but especially women, we tend to carry even other people's problems. We're trying to resolve other people's problems in our heads, and we're carrying that around. And we wonder, why do I feel so exhausted? Why am I emotionally drained? A lot of times it's because there's a lot going on in our heads. We are also even considering conversation, or we're having conversations with someone, especially someone who's made us, upset, or we're irritated with them or whatever. We can have a whole conversation with that person and they're not even there. This is a tab, an open tab in your head, and this is a lot of mental overload to be carrying. But we tend to do that. And I think in midlife, what we are now looking to do as we're rebuilding our lives is to make sure we are checking ourselves and seeing what is actually going on in my head. What is going on in my head, and why do I feel the way that I feel? What am I thinking about? So it's being more aware of your thoughts, because a lot of times it's not about the too much work or the activities as much as that is exhausting. It's a lot to do with what are the open loops in your head that your brain is trying to work through and try to help you because he doesn't want to leave anything unfinished. So just to go over the examples again. So this could be unfinished tasks, decisions that you have not resolved, conflicts that are ongoing. Oh, that's a big one. Responsibilities that you have, and some are your responsibilities, some are not. And then this other one is a big one too, the things that we're avoiding. A lot of times we have situations or things that may be addressed that we're avoiding, whether it's finance, relationships. Those are, I think, the two major ones that we tend to want to avoid. But when we do that, that just leaves an open loop in our heads, and that brings that mental overload. That makes us feel overwhelmed. So what we're trying to do is to give your brain less things to try to manage all the time, continuously on some loop. We are trying to clear out things so that you have more clarity. You don't just wonder, like, why are things not working? Why can't I focus? Why do I feel so tired? Why am I starting and not finishing things? A lot of times when we don't finish things is because of that mental overload in our heads, things that are going on, and we start something and then we feel like, oh, I don't have the energy, oh, I don't have the time, I don't have this, and then you don't finish it. So as you can see, as I'm going through these things, you can see how this impacts you, how this impacts me, and why we need to address those things, why we need to get rid of any mental overload that we have, and make this really into a daily practice, because every day brings its own thing. And a lot of times we're carrying things from last month, 6 months ago, a year ago, and we are just struggling. And how this actually plays out a lot of times is that we tend to then think we don't have discipline. Because again, we're starting and stopping things. We have so many things we have not made up our minds about, and we just feel dejected and we blame ourselves. I have no discipline. And yeah, sometimes there is no discipline. Sometimes we do need to work on our discipline. But a lot of times, it's not the lack of discipline, as in maybe lack of discipline with your mind. Like you are not working on your mind and the thoughts and being aware of your thoughts. You're not disciplining your thoughts so that they can, focus on the right things and get rid of the things that they don't need to focus on. When the Bible talks about renewing our minds, that's one of the things is, God wants us to renew our minds according to his word. Why? So that we focus on the things that are in alignment with him. So this is part of that renewing of the mind, is like, what is in my head? What are my thoughts? What am I worried about? What am I anxious about? What's going on? What is the things that I'm carrying that I'm not supposed to carry? So the first thing to do, right, because we just want to talk about problems and not actually say what we need to do. The things that I would suggest we first do, and this is something that I do too. And sometimes I'm not very good at doing this. So when I'm talking about this, I am not just, pointing a finger at you. I'm just sharing from my own experiences, the things that I've worked, the things I've not done, the things that I've tried and failed, all those things. Right? On this channel, this community is about sharing experiences and helping each other to build the lives that we want to build. And really, that's what I'm here for. So what you want to do first, or what I would suggest you do, is that you take a notebook and write things down. Write every single thing you can think of that is in your head. Like a dump, like just do one of those idea dumps thing. When I remember when I was looking to start my second business, I had like an idea, a pad that I was just doing like idea dumps on there, just dumping all the things I could think about. And I think this works and I know it works, not that I think. It works for this as well. Dump every single thing. Write down every single thing that is worrying you, that you're anxious about, that, just write it down. The things you need to do, the things you've been putting off, the things that you I've been avoiding the talks you need to have, the decisions, write everything down. Right. And this is not, it's not to be perfect. It's not to have some kind of structure. This is just to get things out of your head onto a piece of paper. And you would be surprised how this helps you. Because I've done this. And it's like you've just emptied everything and you feel like so much relief just from writing. It's just the simple acts of writing this down. And for me, as a believer, what I do then is a lot of times, especially things that I've, you know, that I have really no control over. So this will be the second step, is to identify what is the real pressure. What are the things that you're responsible for? What are the things that are real pressures that are giving you anxiety? Like start to clarify or classify rather, and identify what exactly is what. What are you responsible? What are the things that can wait? What is causing you the most stress? Is it money? Is it time? What are the situations? What is it that you can do? And what are things that you cannot do because they depend on someone else? What are the things that are tasks that you can do? And what are the tasks that you cannot do that are depending on someone else? Because we have those situations in life. And so after I've done that kind of classification, I know like I don't want to be in a state of worry and anxiety. So I have to give things to God. So for me, I go in prayer and I say, God, this is all the stuff in my head. And I surrender that to Him. That is one of the things that I do for myself, is to surrender the worries, the anxiety, because He tells me not to, He tells us not to worry. So I want to just give that over to Jesus so that I'm not carrying that. And a lot of times I'm worrying about things that, they might never come true, or that I'm not really responsible. I cannot change them. So when you do this process, for me, I do have to put that in prayer. And then the third thing that I'll do is to really separate things from the noise, right? So what are the real responsibilities? So I have given God all the worries. I've said, you take all this. But what are the things that I am responsible for doing? Because there are things that I can do, there are things that God can do, there are things that other people can do. I need to separate that, identify what are things and what is noise. Because sometimes our heads carry a lot of noise. Am I just thinking about something and it's become a distraction, but it's not actually a responsibility? Is it just mental clutter? Am I just keeping my mind busy thinking about situations that, first and foremost, you might not have control over? And another thing could be that somebody else is supposed to do something and you have no control over what they do. Am I replaying? I'll give you examples of noises. Replaying conversations. When I was talking about this earlier, where you're just having conversations with someone because you have married them and they're not there. That is noise. That's an example of noise. Worry is an example of noise. That I should have kind of conversations, the regrets we tend to have about the past. And we are thinking, oh, I should have done this. I should have said this. Or if only, all the what ifs and the things that we carry, that's a lot of noise in our heads that is going on. They're looking in the future and thinking what ifs. They're looking in the past and thinking I should have. That is noise, right? So once you identify on your paper, like, okay, this is the things that I'm responsible for. These are the things that are noise. These are things that I'm worried about, and I can hand that over to God. Then we want to start creating kind of like a system. Because what you don't want is to use your brain as a storage system. The moment we do that, that's when we have this mental overload, because we are using the brain that is not made to hold things, because it will try to resolve and solve and solve. So we want a system, and we want the system on paper. So what can the system look like? And this is just my suggestion. It can just be as much as like 3 simple buckets or 4 buckets, whichever works for you. But what are the things that need your immediate attention? Like, what are the things that needs to be done this week? We have those responsibilities. We have those tasks in your business, in your career, in your family, in your relationships. There are things that need to be attended to immediately this week. So you put those down in the list of what has to be handled this week. What are the things that you need to make a decision, not somebody? You need to make a decision on that. Maybe you've been wavering, you've been contemplating, you've been whatever, trying to avoid it. What are the things that you actually need to make a decision on? You put that on his list, on his own bucket. And what are the things that are maybe not now, right? So there you could say, okay, these are things I need to decide or think about or work on in the next month or in the next 6 months. What are those things? Because they are not immediate, but they also need attention because we don't want to forget things. So if you do those kind of buckets, you are really helping yourself. And again, so you're writing this down. If you want to use an app, you can, but it doesn't have to be very complex at all. It doesn't have to be complicated. You can just write it down and put it in your little buckets so that it's not in your head anymore. It's somewhere in your either diary or planner or journal, whatever you have. You can then say, okay, this is what needs to be done. And we are not trying to solve everything today. This is important. We are not trying to solve everything today. We are trying to just get things out of our heads, so we can move on to the next thing. So what happens then if you do that? You will definitely, I'm telling you this because I know I've done this, you will feel better. Honestly, you will start to just feel that act in itself, the act of writing down. I don't know what it does. I know there's some psychological evidence of writing things down. It helps you retain them. There's all the scientific studies they've done about writing things down, makes you get rid of things. So you will start to feel better. You'll be able to focus. And when you stop thinking about everything at once, like I have to do everything at once, and now it's on paper, you are able to really have clarity on, okay, how do I move forward? Right? So you can sit and pray and ask God, how do I move forward with this? And you now know what actually matters, right? What is the noise? What is important? What can wait? You have classified them, so you now know what matters. And that's what clarity is, because we're not always looking for a new plan. Even in this stage of midlife and reinvention and transitioning and starting over, wherever you may be, the answer is not always that we need a new plan, new me. A lot of times it's just you need the mental space because it's in your head. A lot of what's going on is in your head. So having that mental space helps. So the step one in this process of, the order of rebuilding your life would be the clearing of your mental load. And this is what I've been just discussing in this video. Is like, this is one of the crucial steps to everything else that we're going to talk about. And in the next video, I'm going to talk about what is the next step after you've cleared the mental overload, after you've done the writing, after you feel, and you will start to feel better. Trust me, you will. As my kids say, trust. I think it's such a fun thing. It's like, yeah, trust, mommy. I'm like, what does that even mean? Trust. But you will start to feel better, right? So the next video, which I would love for you to watch, is going to mainly be on emotional drainage, the things that drain you, which will be our second step in this process of how do we redesign our lives in the second chapter. If you're new here, my name is Janet, and please go ahead and subscribe if you haven't done so already. And join our community. The link is in the description below. And I'll see you next time.